Okay, I think I am back. I am live once again, and now I'm going to start actually reading the poems in my book. In the last quick video, I already did the title and I already did the first little chapter introduction thing called Thanks, and then I did the introduction thing called Notes. So now it's time to actually start on the poems, and I think I'm going to comment on them as well. Games on my phone. In one of them, I'm a snake and I have to eat apples. The more apples I eat, the longer I get. And I gotta watch out for my tail because if I hit my tail, I die. But I gotta keep eating those apples. That's the whole point of the game. Eventually, I die. Eventually, everyone dies. It's one of those games nobody can win. But as long as you're slithering, you gotta keep eating those apples. In another one, I cut fruit that's tossed up in the sky. Watermelons, cantaloupes, kiwis, whatever. I cut them with a machete. The juice squirts out. I get points. And that's the whole game. And in another one, I'm a man on a motorcycle, a red motorcycle. And I can ride that thing forever. I put it on easy mode and ride through the day and ride through the night and ride through the day and ride through the night and ride through the day and ride through the night. Eventually, I have to quit because eventually I have to sleep. But it sure is hard to go to sleep when I know the games on my phone are so much better than my life and so much better than my dreams. That sound means the poem is over and now it's time for another poem. A few steps. I came to Nogales for cosmetic dental work at a low price, and now I have about 35 minutes to spare. Somehow I get the feeling that it might be nice to pass the time in an old Catholic church that they've got there. I ascend a few steps and stroll through doors propped open, passing by the holy water because I don't know what to do with holy water. I don't think I should touch it. I'm hoping that these Catholics won't be bothered by a tourist passing through. Seated now, I look at statues, works of wood and stone, architecture. If the clergy inquires, I'm merely here to see the beautiful pictures, not to worship, not to pray, or to hear a priestly lecture. Everything's in Spanish anyway. How could I read their scriptures? Dang it. How do I tell my dad that though Mormonism is lovely, I enjoy this church and I like the Pope, and I no longer believe it's beneath the customs of our people to reverently sit in such a place occasionally next to Mexican men with bowed heads, wrinkled skin, and missing teeth. That last one was based on a true story, actually. Um, yeah. All right. So the next one is I talked with a star. Water runs, 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 and look, you've got the Grand Canyon. Species evolve, galaxies merge, crash. There goes a planet. Kablooey. Some solar system just died and we never even gave it a name. It's a miscarriage among millions we do not mourn. Even the laymen these days look at the stars and know the bottom line. Everything we ever cared about, everything we now care about, everything we will care about isn't really that big of a deal. Or so the Homo sapiens brain deep in science say. But I was talking with a star last night. Proper name Adhora, designation Epsilon Canis Majoris. And he told me that hydrogen fusion was baloney, and that really the love that I have for my wife kept him twinkling. I love you, my wife. Let that star keep shining. Okay, so I've gone through a religious change in my life. I was born and raised Mormon, and then for about 7 years, I was kind of generally Christian, but still active in the Mormon church, and now I'm Catholic. Um, so that one, I talked with a star, was written, I don't know when exactly, but I wasn't Catholic at the time. And so, there's this thing like this imprimatur, I think, imprimatur, um, and like a Nihil Obstat. It's like this seal of approval that a Catholic priest gives to a book. My book does not have that seal of approval, and I don't think that it would get it because I'm a little bit worried that that poem was heretical, because it kind of said that the love that I had for my wife gave energy to a star, and that is not the way stars get their energy. I just read this book called Catholics and the New Age by Father Mitch Pacwa, and he said that one of the New Age heresies or teachings that are not correct is that we are God, that God is everything, that we are part of everything's all connected. We're all one. We're all part of the big cosmic thing. And that's kind of what I was saying there, is that like somehow my love gave power to the stars out there in the universe. And I mean, maybe that's true in a poetic way, but I think it's kind of new agey. But I still think it's a good poem. And so I still read it to you. All right. Coolidge. I drive through Coolidge on the way to Tucson, but have only stopped there twice. Once to get something at Walmart, I don't remember what, and another time to see the Casa Grande ruins, a big adobe house built by the Indians. In Coolidge, you'll see really tall cactus, probably some men in cowboy hats, a dollar store, a trailer park, a bar called the Galloping Goose. And just south on the highway, there's Stinger Welding, a big metal building. It might have been gray and it might have been blue, and it's got an angry bee on the side. And I drive by all this stuff a couple of times a year, eating sunflower seeds, feeling sleepy. And this is the way we pass through most of the towns on the way to some other place, knowing no one, speaking briefly or not at all, taking with us only a few unclear memories of 10,000 clear glances, and perhaps a trinket from some store, but we don't remember what it was, or what we did with it, or where it is now. Did you like that one? What's funny is a college professor liked that one time because that's my only one that ever got really published in a real magazine. It for real got published. I could show you the magazine. I don't know where it is right now, but I promise you I have the real magazine, and my poem really got published, and that's the only one that ever got published in a real magazine in my whole entire life. Flowers in the gardens of the spirit world are giant and bright and beautiful, and they sway all day, and they're green and they're blue and they're purple too, and they communicate with us by the way they sway and by the way they spray out a mist of pure love and a mist of pure joy. And with their petals outstretched, they shout out praise to the God of flowers, and they shout out praise to the God of people. And by their love and by their life, the flowers in the gardens of the spirit world produce more love and more life. And you might say that this is my imagination, and you might say that this is hallucination, and you might say I need medication. But if you would have been dead, you would not have said, "Nonsense," and then walked off to pick and pin down the normal flowers on this normal earth. And you would not have attended the bi monthly meeting of local flower enthusiasts at which you serve as secretary. Rather, you would have closed your eyes, let your soul rise, seen the flowers, smelled the flowers, felt the flowers, all the million flowers in all the million gardens of the glorious spirit world. And then you would have believed me that this petunia is temporary, and that this lily and that this other lily, both of which are neatly reposed in your science flower book, will decompose, decompose, decompose along with your science flower book. And if you would have been dead, then you would have believed me that these flowers pinned down in your science flower book are not everything that existence is willing to give to you freely. Hermit. Why do I live out here? Oh, let me a comment on the last poem just a tiny bit. Sorry there. Okay, so Flowers in the Gardens of the Spirit World. I wrote that one in like 30 minutes. It was really crazy. I was staying up really late one night and I was reading near-death experiences on the computer, and some lady said that she had a near-death experience where she saw all these flowers, and so that's where I got the inspiration to write that one. That was a long time ago when I wrote that one. I don't really remember when, of course. All right, so the next one, to start it again, is called Hermit. Why do I live way out here? And why do I duck behind bushes when hikers approach? It's not that I dislike people. Contrarily, I like people. I do. I am myself, in fact, you see, of course, a person. But in constantly surrounding oneself with others that talk, 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 and even when they don't talk in the technical sense, they send messages with their bodies. The position of a chin perhaps means, I've got you right where I want you. And the shoulders jutting forward while the womanly lips droop translates roughly into, what about my needs and my wants? And wouldn't it be nice if you thought about me for a change? But in constantly surrounding oneself with others, in going to their stores, their loud restaurants, their parking lots, their housing subdivisions, one begins to view oneself through their eyes. All those eyes, obscured by dark glasses, those multitudinous eyes that cannot see face to face, eyes that blare a collective judgment. It blasts into you a massive collective judgment, which is not unanimous, which is not concise, which is not the flame brightening the wood, which is not the ritual of boiling water, but a judgment that is fractured, multifaceted, unknowable, ever expanding, soul withering. Who can live beneath those eyes? But to be alone, to be inwardly content, to live like me, a hermit, requires a stillness of mind, a solitary confidence. Abandoning humanity, did you say? No, I'm saving it. And anyway, I have not vowed the vow of perpetual hermitude. When the cycle of my solitude reaches its end, I'll enter the village and find a friend. Looking at a crucifix. It's a little uncomfortable to look at. There's a part of me that would rather see something nice on the wall, a painting of flowers, a photograph of myself, maybe a clock. Jesus is nailed to the cross. Nails are in his hands, nails are in his feet, thorns are sticking into his head. The man is about to die. He's bleeding, he's suffering, maybe he's already dead. It's a little uncomfortable to talk about. If we have to see a depiction of Jesus, we'd rather it be a nice one. Jesus holding a lamb while the sun sets. Jesus taking a walk with his friends. Jesus smiling, surrounded by happy and clean children. And if we have to see a cross, we'd rather it not have a single drop of blood on it, let alone a bloody, beaten man, writhing in agony. But we weren't put on this earth to be comfortable. And if you really want the demons to go away, put up a crucifix. Look at it every day. Vocalize. I know a man who got kicked out of a karate class because he wouldn't make the karate sounds. He said the sounds were silly, and he was serious. Now, he's an accountant, which I have to say is honorable, and I have to say that he himself is honorable, and I don't have any problem with saying that he's honorable or that accounting is honorable or that those who practice accounting belong to an honorable profession. But I also have to say that it was right that he was removed from the dojo. For those who will not vocalize, those who refuse the power offered to them, those who douse the flames of passion with their unparted lips, those people need to go. That one was actually based on a true story. That one was based on a true story. There was a guy who really wouldn't make the sounds in a karate class. I never did it. It was one of my brother's friends, I think. But the accountant part's not real. Anyway, and I don't know if you got the joke. I know a man who got kicked out of a karate class. That was in the first line. It's a pun. You got kicked out. You get it? All right. There's all kinds of secret stuff in my poems that ought not to be revealed at this time. A man is painting. It's nice to know that somewhere out there a man is painting. Even if he's painting a wall, it's nice to know that somewhere out there a man is painting. Even if it's a color I don't like, even if it's a color very few people like, even if it's a color that causes all the interior designers in the world to recoil, it's still nice to know that somewhere out there, a man is painting. And maybe the man doesn't even like the color all that much, but that paint was a real good deal. It was Oops paint. It was at the hardware store, the one on the corner. And that wall really should have been painted a long time ago. And it's his wall. And he can do whatever he wants with his own wall. And he doesn't care what anybody thinks about the color he picked. And anyway, most people these days are too lazy to get up and paint a wall. Maybe it's not their fault, all those lazy people. Maybe their fathers never taught them how to paint. Maybe their fathers never led them to beauty. The radio's on and the song's familiar. He's got his nose close to his work. Pretty soon he's going to stop and have some lunch. Jerome the gnome bludgeons a pretty kitty. There once was a gnome by the name of Jerome who made his home in the metropolis of Rome. He chanced upon a stray kitten, and by its beauty he was smitten. So gently he reached forth his mitten, for 'twas cold out. Ouch! He was bitten. Jerome was shocked, taken aback. Who knew that this kitten would attack? "O thou bewitching creature with fur of black," quoth Jerome, "what's your problem?" "Meow," said the kitten with sass. "Meow." 'Twas then that Jerome's anger was waxen hot, and he reached deep inside his magical pot of lethal weapons, of which he had a lot, like grenades, AK 47s, rocket launchers, a slice of bread with polio on it. And then he paused. He had a change of heart, for killing kitties is a somber art. But still his anger was waxen a little bit hot. So Jerome reached into his other magical pot. 'Twas a pot of non-lethal weapons. So nobly he retrieved a metal meat tenderizer, grabbed the pretty kitty, and guess what he did to her? A crush I had in high school. I liked her. She didn't like me. Oh, she liked me a little, at least in some limited way, at least on some brief occasions. Well, maybe she didn't like me at all. She probably didn't. But she must have liked me a little. I mean, she did keep me around. I waited and waited like a dog for her to throw meat to the ground. And sometimes there was meat. She looked at me. She talked to me. She walked alongside me. This was all so long ago. I don't think we ever had lunch together, and we certainly never had dinner together. I think it was a friendship. There was also the meat she didn't offer, the things I stole from her, long looks at the skin beneath her skirt, my hand on her thigh. Heartbreaks never disappear. They only move into deeper parts of ourselves. Old passions bubble up at the strangest times, like tonight, when, for some reason, I'm thinking of her again. I remember it all seemed very serious at the time, but now, well, now it still seems pretty serious. When it was over, when it was clear there would never be a beginning, I cried. I cried on the bus. I cried in my bedroom. I thought the tears would never stop. But eventually, they did. And eventually, I grew up. I'm a man now. And so, tonight, there will be no tears and not another word concerning her. Sweet potatoes. So I went to Sprouts and got sweet potatoes. At least, I thought they were sweet potatoes. The sack said they were sweet potatoes. There were 6 of them in that sack, and it said sweet potatoes. And I'm using quotation marks because I'm actually quoting. When I got home, my wife said they were yams. I should sue Sprouts. It's not right. It's not right to tell a man that those kind of orange, kind of brown things in the sack are sweet potatoes and to make him believe he's buying sweet potatoes when actually he's got his hands on yams. Yams, 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 yams. I feel like Jacob must have felt. He wants to marry Rachel. He thinks he's marrying Rachel. Laban says, "Don't worry, it's definitely Rachel under that veil." But the next morning, when the sunlight streams into the tent, there was Leah, laying there, looking like a good for nothing sack of yams. Eventually, that old man gave Jacob the right bride, plus a bunch of sheep. But what did Sprouts ever give to me? Just a night full of marital problems and a coupon for 25 cents off my next purchase of yogurt. To those who bury their talents, there is a song inside you. Sing it, or else you're nothing more than a nightingale without a throat, an oyster sealed shut, just another pig withholding its bacon. I think that's a reference. I don't know. There's a lot of references to the Bible in my poetry, and bearing their talents. That's in the Bible somewhere. But I think that a talent was actually like a piece of money. It's just funny that now we use the word talent to mean, juggling or tumbling or somersaulting or whatever. And so anyway, I'll just move on. All right. So the next one is Big O Tires. And this is another autobiographical one. Big O Tires. My uncle Bruce used to own a Big O Tires in Mesa a long time ago, maybe 20 years. So when I saw they were building a Big O Tires on the southeast corner of Ironwood and Ocotillo, I thought, hey, my uncle used to own a Big O Tires in Mesa. But when they finished building it, I didn't go. I always went to Discount Tire. Well, yesterday in my garage, I saw that the driver's side front tire was flat. So this morning, I put on the spare and drove over there to the new Big O Tires, since it's closer, and I didn't want to drive too far on that little donut. I told the guy behind the counter, my Uncle Bruce used to own a Big O Tires in Mesa. And he said, oh. And I said, his name was Bruce Gunnell. And he said, I just moved in from Michigan, so I wouldn't know him. I don't really know anybody. My Uncle Bruce is dead, but I didn't bother saying that. I just said, my tire's flat. Next time I'll go back to Discount Tire. I'm not friends with anyone there, but I'm used to it, and it's cheaper. I want to be alone. I want to be alone and write a poem about how good it is to be alone and about how profound I sound when nobody's around. But then I want somebody to read it and somebody to like it and somebody to like me. And I want somebody to tell me I'm worthy of time and attention and love and money by virtue of my poem. And then maybe we could have dinner together. Who could that somebody be? Could it be you? Could it be you? All right. So the next one is Blast Off, Are You a Honey Cruncher Kid? It's the poem that I used. I used the title of this poem as the title of my book. I did that because I thought I want to get people's attention, blast off. Wow, 3 exclamation marks. That gets people's attention. I don't know if it's my best poem or anything, but it's kind of funny, I think, anyway. All right, so here it is. Blast Off, Are You a Honey Cruncher Kid? Honey Cruncher kids are cool and sly, just like Honey Crunchers, so they buy all the Honey Cruncher products, regardless of price or quality. So go ahead, make a mess. Overflow your bowl with big buzzy buzzers with your breakfast pals, the Bumblebee Brothers. Then blast off to the nearest grocery store and make mom buy Honey Cruncher stuff galore. Like buzzer blasting berry O's, golden chocolate goblin toes, mighty stingray sugar squares, hibernating marshmallow bears, rainbow happy twizzle sticks, cereal experiment number 6, rhino dino cinnamon bites, and limited edition licorice nights. Get every Honey Cruncher box on the shelf, because only then can you consider yourself a true Honey Cruncher kid, loyal to the brand. Buy 'em all, eat 'em all, then buy more. Understand? That one was based off of stuff I read on the side of a box of cereal. But don't worry, it's not plagiarism. It's not exactly what was on the box of cereal. It was just inspired by that. Hey, I remember algebra. I had to do algebra in high school. Yeah, I did algebra when I was in high school. Now I'm 37 and I forgot most of that algebra stuff, except I do remember that in algebra, you substitute letters for numbers. So 2 plus 2 turned into 2 plus x. And you had to figure out what x was. But back then, I just wanted to figure out what sex was. It's too bad all the numbers weren't replaced with letters. Then the letters could have formed words, and the words could have formed a story, and the story could have been good. It could have been a story that made me want to wake up tomorrow. I forgot a lot of English too, but at least I had a good time in there. Algebra sucks. I wonder if my ancestors are ashamed of me. They probably are. They were hunters and farmers and city councilmen, and their beards were so much better than mine. It's true that my great grandfather probably never heard of algebra or prepositions, but who cares? He had 39 grandchildren and killed several grizzly bears. And I'm a bum. I'm a bum. I never used algebra, and I turned out to be a bum. I've traded my birthright for a mess of pottage. But let me tell you, this is some pretty good pottage. Do you want a bite? I'm kind of paranoid that people can't hear me, so I'm going to stop the stream and start it again.